Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have one of the most anticipated and controversial cars of the year, the Toyota Supra. So the question is it any good? And more importantly, did they butcher the Supra name? So why is it controversial? It's because underneath all this pretty bodywork, it's actually BMW Z4. From the engine, chassis to the interior, all BMW. So that sounds very taboo for a legend like the Supra. But let's not judge it just yet. Maybe there's some sort of method to their madness. Let's start with the outside. Right away you have to admit, it's actually a pretty good looking car. Especially in person, it starts to really grow on you. It has a lot of nice curves and attention to detail. So let's start with the headlights. The headlights have 6 LEDs that look like perfect ice cubes that you would have in your old-fashioned whiskey drink. And underneath is a long strip of lighting, which altogether looks sleek and glows quite pretty. So you'll notice that the front end is actually pretty big. It's mostly just the hood. It even leaves the smallest fender behind. It kind of gives you that Viper feel, or funny enough, BMW Z4. You'll also notice it has a lot of ducts everywhere. And it looks like they're fake. And technically they're just plugins. They can be functional. I guess you just have to remove them and put new inserts. So it's kind of weird that they just didn't go ahead and leave them as real ducts to begin with. Once you leave the front, you start to see the curves I'm talking about. It goes from the fender into the door all the way into the back and even the roof, and they all meet at the end with this little ducktail kind of spoiler. And now for the rear end, which I think is the best part of the car. I especially love the taillights. And I love all these little curves that you have all over the back. And the fact that the reverse light looks like a Formula One style fog light. And that they used the original Supra badge from the 90s. And since we're back here, let's open up the trunk. By the way, not like the old Supra, this is a 2-seater. And you can only open up the trunk with the key. There's no button over here. Once you open the trunk, you're actually surprised with the amount of space is there. But it has an awkward shape to it. So I feel that you can't really put in the items that you would like. Plus you have this big cover that I guess you would have to remove if you want anything else to fit in there. So now let's check out the 3-liter, 6-cylinder turbocharged engine. And this is where my disappointment begins. The engine in the Supra is 335 horsepower, but the same engine in a BMW Z4 is 380. So why such a big difference? And another thing is the Supra that we love from the 90s is 320 horsepower. So after all these years, all we got was 15 horsepower. But nonetheless, this does 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. And we can't argue that is a pretty good time for the price range. So now let's check out the interior. Now we're inside the Supra, and this is the biggest disappointment for me. The whole interior screams BMW. If you're a BMW owner, you'll feel just as at home here as any of your cars. See, the old Supra looked like a jet fighter. It was so unique, so special. So it's so weird to me that they didn't even attempt to change the interior. I understand they had to get parts from BMW and kind of work their way to build this car. But they could have at least put the energy into making the unique interior, something that a Supra owner would feel at home. But you just don't get that here. But with that being said, the interior is still very nice. It's made with good material. You have carbon fiber accents. Like I said, the build quality is nice because it is a German build quality. And funny enough, I'm 6'2" and I have a lot of headroom. You would think from the outside, because it looks like a Matchbox car, that I wouldn't fit, but I actually fit very comfortable. So now it's time to turn her on and drive around. pretty surprised how the stock exhaust sounds. It sounds pretty good. It has all the crackles and bangs you'd want. Yeah, we're definitely sliding all over the place. This car is definitely a good time. This car is definitely a fun car to drive, especially when it's wet. Now we're from a standstill. Alright, a little bit damp. There we go. Fighting the wheel a little bit, but picks up really fast once the turbo kicks in. Woof! That is way faster than I expected. Another thing I'll point out is that the faster you go, it actually stays stable the whole time. It doesn't start to like shake or it feels like it's losing control. It's actually pretty planted throughout the whole time. So back to my original question, is this car any good? I think it's an excellent sports car. In fact, I'm surprised how much I enjoy driving it. But I think they butchered the Supra name. The Supra was such a legendary car. It was made to compete against the RX-7, the Skyline, and other cars like the M3 and Corvette. And a lot of these cars are still around today, with dual clutch transmissions, pushing 500, 600 horsepower, or even manual transmission options. This missed out in that market completely. This should have been the new exotic car killer. I think this should have been called the Silica, something to hype up the Supra. Just like in the 70s, it was a Silica, then Silica Supra, and then in the 80s it became a Supra. They could have done the same thing to hype up this car. Instead, they went with BMW, did a quick job. I think they should have took their Lexus chassis, like a RC. And they could have made the Supra the way we wanted it. Wide, long nose, 4 seats, the way a Supra enthusiast wanted it to be. But if you don't care about those things, and you just want a nice little sports car that's around $55,000, $60,000, then this is the car for you. Thanks for watching.